This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am joined once again by the wonderful Jill Bucaro, who's joining us from, well, where in the world is Jill Bucaro this month?
I am outside of Atlanta, Georgia, in a town
Okay,
called Fayetteville. So
okay,
this will be where I'll be for quite some time now.
okay. So your
Yeah.
nomadic days are behind you for now?
For now, yeah.
For now, for now.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a little while since we've spoken, and today
Yeah.
we are going to be speaking about herbs or herbs, as I've been
Her.
calling them for a larger portion of my life. Well, that's probably about half and half. Been 28 years in Canada, so I guess it's herbs. Um,
Okay.
so I guess my first question, perhaps I know the answer to this, perhaps I don't. What is an herb?
Yes, I think we hear that term all the time, but like, really, what is it? So it's any plant with leaves, seeds, or flowers used for flavoring food, medicine, or perfume. And it's any seed bearing plant that does not have a woody stem
Oh,
and that dies down to the ground after flowering. So that's what differentiates it from a tree, is that, like, oregano or a basil plant will like totally die when it dies, whereas like a tree will lose its leaves and it can come back.
I see, I see. Now, I am very well versed in most of the culinary herbs,
Hmm.
but we're going to be looking at a whole spectrum of herbs that you talk about quite often, you use quite often, and we're going to
Yeah.
start off with, I believe, peppermint. Let's talk about peppermint.
Yeah. So I do, talk about herbs in like two different ways. And one is
Hmm.
like the ones that are like everyone knows about, they're pretty common, they're readily available. And then the other way is like the ones that combat the problems that most of us have or that
I
I
see.
see the most. So like stress and, immune support and inflammation and things like that. So we'll
All
start
right.
off with
Okay.
like peppermints of the world. Like everybody has heard of peppermint or knows what it is, but it can be cooling. So if you find yourself running hot or it's, summer days, peppermint can be really cooling. It
Now,
can helps with, oh, go
can I
ahead.
interject for a second?
Yeah.
Peppermint is a very specific member of the mint family, which I believe is
Mhm.
huge because it hybridizes with itself very, very easily. Peppermint is a very specific type of mint, right?
Yeah, peppermint is a specific kind of mint. And in fact, we'll talk about oregano next, which is part of the mint family. But peppermint,
Did not
you want
know.
to look for, yeah, I know. Right? But peppermint is like, you want to look for peppermint as opposed to like mint or spearmint or something like that.
Right.
Like the properties that I'm going to talk about are specific to peppermint.
Okay. So cooling. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I
And
can see that.
also, herbs, I guess that leads us into like there's so many different ways you can use herbs, like the formulas or the what am I talking about? The process, the form. So
Right.
like I'm like, what am I looking at? The delivery method is actually what
Yes,
I
of
was looking to
course. Yeah.
say. So, there can be oils, there can be
Right.
dried herbs, fresh plants. So, depending on, what we're talking about, just kind of find what is, most appropriate or what's best for you. But like with cooling, like the oil is going to be really helpful, or like a tincture, because you could put it like on the back of your neck or you could put it on your temples
Right.
and it
Right.
helps bring, yeah, I did that with my son when he was little and he had a fever. I'm not one to break a fever right away, but when it gets to be too high for too long, and I put a couple drops of peppermint oil in his bath and it came down like that,
Oh,
like
okay.
3 degrees.
Yes.
So it can be helpful for cooling. It can help support digestion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I'm familiar with
it
that.
can,
Yeah.
yeah, help support headaches. And I will say too, I'll give another caveat. I'm not a medical doctor. If you want to try any of these, I'm not giving,
Yeah.
prescriptions.
Of course.
Definitely check with your doctor if you have any questions. But peppermint can also be very energizing and it can support your respiratory system. So it does a bunch of different things, all while freshening your breath.
Of course. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have a large abundance of chocolate mint, which is not quite the same thing, but we have that is growing. It's taking over part of our backyard right now, but not
That,
quite peppermint. I may have to plant some peppermint.
yeah. Mint is very like takeovery kind of guy.
Yes. So you
Yeah.
mentioned the oregano, or oregano as I used to call it,
Yes.
is a member of the mint family. This is something I was unaware of.
I have to be honest, I was unaware of it until I started like bullet pointing the
Yeah,
properties. And I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, well, what do you know? So now we all know.
And how, I mean, the Italians use oregano on every pizza I think I've ever had in my life. I think it's a wonderful
Uh-huh.
herb. But
Yeah.
what kind of health benefits, or what kind of different qualities does oregano have outside of the culinary situation?
Yeah, so it has antibacterial, antiviral, anti-inflammatory properties. So it's great
Wow.
for immune support. It has a high antioxidant score. So antioxidants are scored using the ORAC score. So if you've ever seen like blueberries and green
Yes,
tea,
yes.
things that we know that have high antioxidants. So it's the oxygen radical absorbance capacity, ORAC. So 1 teaspoon of dried oregano has an ORAC score of over 7,000. It's 7,011. Blueberries is 187.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, just, to put that in perspective, because I think most of us are like antioxidant, oh, blueberries, right? Like, and they are high, but that dried oregano has a high score. So great for antioxidants.
Now, I seem to remember a few years back, my wife convinced me to gargle with oil of oregano. And I don't think I'll be repeating that because I found that quite unpleasant.
It's strong. I mean, if you get a
Yes.
pure or like a real high quality oregano oil, I mean, it is strong. And I don't know what that is like ORAC score or potency versus like the dried
Yes.
off the
Yeah.
top of my head. But I agree. You want to be really careful with like ingesting or, the membranes, right? Like in your mouth or like if you're going to inhale it or something like
Yes.
that, like it's very strong. So you definitely want to dilute it.
Yes, most definitely. Another
Yeah.
one that was on your list was lavender. Lavender is definitely a scent that I enjoy, I have to say. I sort of gravitate towards more lavender bubble baths and things like that. But I do find it a very, very calming aromatic for sure. And that has been the case. Well, people have realized that for a long time.
Right, right. Yeah, we definitely associate it with like calm and serene. And the reason is because the smells are handled by our olfactory system, which is connected to the limbic system in our brain, which includes the regions related to emotion.
Right.
So there is like legitimately a connection there. And it genuinely supports our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our relaxed state, as
Right.
opposed to that sympathetic, which is our stress response or that fight or flight. So that's why you see it like in spas and bubble baths and lotion and nighttime teas and pillow sprays. So it's wonderful for that. And, this is one of the ones that is readily available and combats something that's very prominent, which is stress. Most of us are under some sort of stress. But the other thing I love about lavender is it soothes burns.
Okay.
So like touching that hot stove or something like that, a little lavender oil. And
Right. I didn't know that. Okay.
it's, it's one of those, I didn't really trust it. I'm like, does it?
Right.
And then it's like, it prevents the blister.
I see.
I mean, depending on how bad it is, but it really like disappeared much more quickly than, I remember burns disappearing in the past. But I will say, if you're cooking, wait till after you're done to put the lavender oil on. Otherwise, you're going to have like lavender spaghetti because it goes everywhere.
Yes.
If you're stirring or whatever, it's like, but it's super helpful for burns. In addition to that, what most of us think of it as like that calming and relaxing.
Well, I actually use the two herbs that you mentioned first, the peppermint and the oregano, on a regular basis. Peppermint, just tear up a few leaves over some ice cream or cream and berries and things like that.
Mhm.
Oregano goes into almost everything I make, I think, unless it's going down the kind of Asian route.
Yeah.
Lavender, I occasionally use in cooking. I have used a little bit of lavender goes a long way when you're cooking. So,
No
so
joke.
if you use too much of it, your lamb roast will sort of taste as if it's been boiled in bubble bath. But
Flowers,
a little bit goes a long way. But you can, you can put a few sprigs underneath a roast lamb or something like that. Also, I have some very good, basically it's called farm salt or country salt, which is a French thing, which is, salt with herbs through it. And some of that, often those have lavender, just a little touch of lavender. And that's nice to season anything.
Yeah.
But getting on to your next one on your list, tea tree. Now, tea tree, I wasn't familiar with it till I came to Canada. And my ex was very fond of tea tree. But I think there's that olfactory connection. She's my ex now. And I think tea tree actually, I don't like the smell of it anymore. I think there are memory connections going on there. But tell me about tea tree.
Yeah, for sure. So tea tree is pretty well known, pretty commonly available. It's also called Melaleuca. That's like the actual like term. So if you see them, they're the same. But they have so many uses. It's very powerfully antiseptic. So you see it in like first aid, wound care, things like
insect bites and things like that.
But it's also antibacterial, antifungal. It has antiviral properties, anti-inflammatory. So great for like household cleaning products. You can also diffuse it to like, kind of clean up the, and then personal care products. So you'll see it in some skin formulas, and it's great for dandruff. So you'll see it in like some shampoos and conditioners. And then, so tea tree, so that's tea tree. But if you mix tea tree with oregano, peppermint, and lemon, it will clear your sinuses in like 0.3 seconds.
And so how does one mix all these oils together and then put them in the bath? Or
so put like a drop or yes, exactly. Yes. So put a drop or two like in a coffee mug or a bowl of like warm water, and then kind of cup your hands or put a towel over and inhale.
I see.
And it's magic.
Oh, all right. Okay.
It's not herbs, it's magic.
No, but these those are herbs that they're reasonably common, but you sent me a list of herbs that support a healthy stress response, and I hadn't heard of any of these before, so I may need your assistance as we go through these herbs. I was looking at some of them, and I think quite a few of these are used in Chinese medicine, right?
They are. So white willow we'll start with, if that's okay. Or do you want to start with the stress response ones?
White willow, that was one that I put into the kind of more esoteric, just because I'm not familiar with white willow at all, right? I classified them myself. So
okay. So let's start with the stress response ones. Okay. So ashwagandha, rhodiola, eleuthero, and holy basil, also known as tulsi.
Sounds like names of like dwarves in Lord of the Rings or something. Elves. Yes, it would be elves. Yeah.
Yes, ashwagandha, the elf. I'm never going to think of it another way. And I will say too, so I'll go through them like individually, but what I always recommend for this kind is to look for a blend. So you can look for a formula that says like calm, stress relief, adrenal support, sleep, depending on kind of like what you're looking for, because they all have really unique properties, and combined, they can really kind of have more of a holistic effect or impact on what you're trying to deal with.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, I've tried a number of those blends for restful sleep and all that stuff, and I think I may have seen these elements in those before, but also valerian, which I've discovered I have the opposite response to. It keeps me awake.
Oh, interesting. Yes. I think that's a really good point, is that with, any of these, you may or may not gravitate towards them, or they may or may not do exactly what you want. So, test them out. Obviously, if you suspect any allergies, avoid, but, just kind of test them out, try them, and really see, really try to tune in to see if they're doing what you want them to do. So, and same with these stress responses. So all of these herbs are adaptogenic, which I think we've talked about maybe in some other manner, with mushrooms. But really adaptogenic just means like balancing or normalizing. So they're not going to like push or pull or force your body to do anything. It will adapt or they will adapt to what you need and help bring your body into homeostasis.
Okay.
So that can be really, it's important for a lot of reasons, but really helpful when it comes to talking about stress. For example, anxiety and depression need different approaches. So they're both, put under that umbrella of stress. But if you're anxious and high energy, or you're depressed and low energy, you don't want something that's going to, send you in the other direction. Whereas adaptogens will kind of get into your body and be like, okay, we need to go up here, we need to go down here. Like, their goal is really just to bring you into balance. So
just they try to bring about equilibrium and all the different things that are going awry in your body, I guess, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's not to say that, something like valerian like wouldn't work, but like when it comes to these adaptogens, they're pretty safe to take. They might just not do what you want to do or be as effective as you want. But there's often not a lot of danger in taking them, at least as like indicated on a bottle of, a supplement, because they do have that balancing component, which is really great, I think. Yeah.
On your list of herbs, you had milk thistle. Milk thistle is one that I actually take medicinally every single day. And I've been taking that for about, I think we spoke about this before when we were talking about supplements. Since, probably about the last 15, 17 years, I've been taking milk thistle just for support for the amount of wine that I consume, right? So
yes.
And I don't know how much of it is in my brain, but it seems to be keeping me reasonably healthy. What does milk thistle do exactly?
It supports liver health. And so, not only for those people that drink alcohol or consume alcohol, but most of us could use some liver love because we're bombarded with toxins in our food, in our water, in the air, and, you name it. And the liver is our detoxifying organ. So all of that stuff that's coming through goes through the liver. And it's responsible for a lot of other stuff in the body with, like hormones and digestion. It plays a role in so many different things that when it's clogged, a lot of things back up. So anyway, so the milk thistle is, one component and a very liver supportive herb, which is great, for everyone, not just people who drink alcohol. Though my mom sent me milk thistle when I was in college. I was like, I think she's on to me.
Well, I actually had I got some blood work done, and there was one of the numbers was a bit awry. And I was looking at it myself before my doctor had seen it, and I was kind of getting a bit worried about it. And then I did a little bit of research online, and apparently that particular number gets a little bit adjusted by if you're taking milk thistle. So, but everything was fine.
Oh,
everything was fine.
Interesting. Yes. And safe for dogs too. I mean, I'm not a vet, but we gave our dog, I always have to put those disclaimers in, but we gave our dog milk thistle for years because her liver enzymes were off as I think she turned maybe like 11, 12. She lived to 17. And at her like 15-year mark, they're like, we've never seen her numbers better. So, I mean, it can work for everybody. Yeah. She doesn't drink alcohol.
Now, another one that I didn't recognize, which I put into that column of things I know nothing about, was white willow. Tell me a little bit about white willow.
Yeah, so this is a personal favorite of mine. So the bark of white willow contains salicin, which is a chemical similar to aspirin, which is acetyl salicylic acid. Yes. So along with its anti-inflammatory, plant compounds called flavonoids, it's been shown to have pain relieving and anti-inflammatory properties. So my story with this is that ever since I can remember, along with my monthly cycle came a very debilitating backache, like a lower backache. Yeah, no cramps, but just this backache that if I didn't get on top of it with ibuprofen, like I just was uncomfortable, and laying down didn't help and sitting didn't help. So, but after years and years of taking ibuprofen every month, my stomach was a mess because it has very destructive properties for your stomach. At the same time, I was given a sample of white willow and told what it, kind of could do. And I was like, I don't know, like, we'll see. And it worked. It worked. So that is just I was like, everybody needs to know about this. So, it does have similar properties to aspirin. So, like, it can be blood thinning. So, just an alert if you're on like a blood thinner and things like that to be aware. But it's such a nice plant-based alternative to something like ibuprofen or Tylenol, which can do either stomach damage or liver damage after, you take it regularly. And, I mean, so many people have, like, if it's just not, a knee, or it's chronic inflammation, or they're, people are taking, those pain medications like every day. So it's something nice to have as a plant alternative and effective. And you can see this, I take it in a tincture, like a alcohol tincture, but have it in, capsules, caplets, whatever.
I may try that out. My back seems to be in good shape right now, but when it does go out, I do pound the ibuprofen. So perhaps I should give. I'm not familiar. I've never seen it on the shelves, but I'll have to have a look and pick some of that up.
Yeah, and you can ask, because sometimes it'll be in a blend too, so you can kind of ask, but even like a grocery store or like a natural food store that has a supplement aisle, they will be able to answer questions for you. And it's called white willow, willow bark. So it can, change names, but something like that.
Now, another thing that I wasn't aware of until I came to Canada, but we now have some growing on our deck. Echinacea. Tell me about echinacea. What is that exactly?
So echinacea is great for your immune system, for like immune support. So you'll see it in like a lot of like cold and cough, formulations and things like that. So it's wonderful. And if you have the plant, you can dry the leaves or dry the plant and, either blend it up or make like a tea, or, they sell the capsules, the empty capsules. So you can
it's not just the flower, it's the whole plant that one would dry for that.
I think there's I'm not positive, but I think there's different potencies depending on the different parts. So you might want to dry like the whole thing, and then
Okay, I guess that's my task for the week to try and do that. So
and you can always look, look online to see like how to do it, or different plans or strategies for making sure it's like, not a safe amount and things like that.
Cool. I will do some research.
Yeah.
Jill Bucaro, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution once again. We've missed you. It's nice to have you back.
Yes, it's nice to be here.
We will speak with you soon. Bye for now.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, Jamie.